morning, esteemed viewers. I'm Rashi Jain, a student of SNIL, and I extend a warm welcome to you all to today's episode of the podcast series presented by Frings. We are privileged to have with us today a distinguished guest, our esteemed alumna, Ms. Radhika Sharma, a finance officer with the government of Orissa. She graduated from SNIL in the year 2019 and secured a gold medal for the highest aggregate score in BBA LLB honors. She cleared the OPSC in the year 2021. Her perseverance and dedication have borne fruit, and we are honored to have her share her insights and experiences with us. Without further ado, may I request Ms. Radhika Sharma, ma'am, to introduce herself.
Namaskar and a very good morning to all the viewers and listeners. My name is Radhika Sharma. It was a privilege to have been a student of SOA National Institute of Law. I was in the batch 2014-19. Thereafter, I pursued my LLM from National Law University, Qatar. After that, I was preparing for the civil service examinations, but at the same time, I was working in different capacities. And in the year 2022, like I wrote the civil service examinations, and in 2023, the results came out. And since then, I am currently working as an Odisha Finance Service Officer and currently under training at Bhubaneswar.
Quite a journey. Moving further, your journey from edtech, teaching, legal research, and most importantly, being a law student to now serving as a civil servant at the government of Odisha is quite diverse. Could you share some key moments or experiences that influence this transition?
Ever since I started my law school journey, I always had one thing in mind that whatever I do, I have to give it back to the society. So the very first thing that happened right after I finished my master's was the COVID lockdown. And because of that, I did not get a lot of opportunities where I can, get financial stability. And I always had a passion for teaching. So teaching is how I ended up during the COVID lockdown. And it was an exciting adventure when I was teaching not only college students, but I had the opportunity to teach school students of class 6, 7, until 12. And thereafter, I went into the edtech industry, wherein I was working as a research associate. That had a lot to do with the research internship experiences that I had in my college life. And to be very honest, financial independence was one of the major reasons why I had diverse career roles, because I was preparing for civil services. So that always acted as a plan B for me. And thereafter, I landed up in civil services.
Can I say that you are an all-rounder?
Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, how do you see your background in public policy intersecting with your current role in the Odisha Finance Services?
Well, public policy was one of the most conscious choices that I made. And in the year 2023, I enrolled myself in a graduate certificate for public policy. So Takshashila Institution is a very renowned think tank which is based at Bangalore, and they offer many courses on public policy. So if any of our viewers and listeners are interested to, jump in the field of public policy, they can definitely check out that institution. So because I had it was a conscious choice that yes, I want to end up in the civil services. So I really wanted to hone my skills in public policy, and I got an opportunity to learn how the governments draft, how they implement policies. But these actions are taken in the higher levels of the administration, and therefore I wanted to equip myself with a very important skill, which is public policy.
Wow, the viewers got a new whole bunch of knowledge to work on now. Okay, so moving further to the next question, that is, Could you elaborate on the importance of sustainable development in the context of Odisha's governance and financial management?
When we talk about sustainable development, what do we understand? The very basic definition of it is that we are utilizing resources in such a fashion that we are also consuming it and we are leaving something for the future generations. Odisha's governance and economy is one of the best examples of sustainable development for a very certain reason that we are not a state which is having a lot of debt. We are a surplus state right now. And that is helping the future generations of our state. And that is the biggest example of it. Furthermore, when we see at the Odisha's financial management, we can actually see that over the years they've tried to clear their debts so that there is not a lot of burden on the future generations. So definitely Odisha as a state is currently a hallmark in just practicing the sustainable development practices.
So, as you know, that Odisha is still a developing state. So, moving this to the further question, that is, what challenges do you foresee in implementing sustainable development initiative in Odisha, and how do you plan to address them?
As I've joined in the services, I have not got an opportunity to do so, but definitely as I progress in my career, there will be certain instances where I have to address this challenge. Technology plays a very vital role, and Odisha government has come up with the 5T project, and technology is a major pillar of it. It is because of technology that there is a possibility of door to door reaching of the services. And as a bureaucrat, my agenda would always be that how I can address to the problems in the shortest time possible. And I think for that, technology would always help. Take a very basic example, that if all the beneficiaries are enrolled in the database, so it will be very easy for the dispersal of the benefits to them. So that is one major way of how I can implement the technological aspect to address to these issues.
Wow, these steps will increase a lot of surrounding in Odisha. How do you think advancement in technology can be leveraged to improve governance and public service delivery in Odisha?
Again, brings me back to 5T services. But apart from that, there are many other initiatives that have been taken by our state, such as the e-dispatch, or say the e-pravesh, e-service citizens. And you would be surprised to know that the grievance redressal mechanism that currently runs in our state, it is directly handled by the chief minister. It is directly seen by the top bureaucrats, and citizens who are facing any form of grievance related to any department, they can directly tweet. And you know that it is the generation of X, and all the people who are facing any form of challenges with the governance, they can directly tweet and they can get their issues resolved. So that is one of the major ways by which technology is currently being used. And apart from that, other departments such as the roadways and the railways are also implementing technology services to improve the citizen delivery mechanism.
Wow, a big step. Um, what is your opinion regarding the need for economic development with environmental sustainability in a state like Odisha, which is rich in natural resources?
If we look at the state of Odisha, we are pioneered in the disaster management, and it has always happened because we have given importance to not only the economic development but also protection of our environment. Say Odisha is it's a leading state in the field of mining, but at the same time we make sure to conserve species such as the olive ridley turtles. We are also after looking after the conservation of mangroves, because Odisha as a state is a coastal area and we are always prone to cyclones. So the state is also implementing measures to take care of our existing biosphere reserves and the national parks. So we can definitely say that along with the economic development of the state, which is happening day by day, if you can see the industries and service sector is booming in Odisha right now. It is like touted as the next Bangalore because a lot of IT companies are coming to our state. But at the same time, the government is also looking after the protection of the environment.
Yeah, we have seen throughout, it's a journey for Odisha government that how
Definitely.
after the cyclone it's revived so fast.
And it has a lot to do with the resilience of the citizens as well. Because the citizens love their city, they love their state. And it is because of the hard work of the citizens also that, uh, see, it is never the efforts of the government. It is always a two-way process. If the government makes efforts, the citizens also have made efforts in equal footing. And that is why we have emerged as a winner, even after the number of cyclones we have faced.
Wow. Okay, so taking a little shift from the development of Odisha and such related issues, our viewers want to know a bit about your journey of becoming a finance service officer.
So when I was in the law school, one of the major expectations that was always on me was to join the judicial services. But from day one, I never had the inclination towards judicial services, and without any offense, that is also a very wonderful career option. But from day one, I knew that I was never meant for it. Secondly, I had the privilege of being taught by the best professors, and it is because of their teachings that I was always interested to pursue teaching as a career option. And teaching has remained a plan B for me because I knew that civil services, the journey to get into civil services is very tough, and I knew it right from the college days. So during my fifth year of law school, I started preparing for civil services, but due to age restrictions, I could not appear right after the graduation because in the state services, the age criteria is a bit higher. So after the masters, I attempted civil services, but then the COVID happened and I could not make it through the first attempt. And then there was also a delay in the examination process due to COVID. And then in the second attempt, all of it happened by God's grace.
And of course, your plan B worked. Yeah.
And yeah, I realized it during the preparation time that I fell in love with teaching, and I always had the idea that I would be teaching college students, but I fell in love with teaching school kids, and that is really my passion. And even till today, sometimes whenever I get time, when I go back home, I meet my students, and I do not fail to take up their doubts. They come up with certain doubts or say math or science. So I just enjoy doing it.
Wow, a stress buster, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how was your journey like? What methods did you apply while preparing for the examination and your state of working during the preparation process?
When you prepare for any examination, more than the mechanical effort that you're making, say I'm getting up every day, putting say X number of hours to prepare for the examination. It is more of a mental exercise also. It takes a huge toll on your mental health. And the biggest challenge that not only me but a lot of other aspirants they face is the support system. And loneliness is also a very major problem that we face. Apart from that, you need to have financial stability because a lot of students feel that I'm putting a lot of financial burden on my family. So that is also a major issue, and a lot of people get into depression because they are not surrounded with the right kind of people, right? They're not surrounded with people who support their dreams, and they're also having that FOMO kind of feeling. So when they open their social media accounts and they see, their counterparts making it big in their lives. So they also feel that, what am I doing? So all these factors, when taken together, this takes a lot of toll on the mental health of the people.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, your sacrifices, your hard work pays off, right?
Definitely, you have to always remember why. Why did you start? Why did I see this dream? That question you have to. So when you go back to the bed and you sleep, you have to remind yourself, why am I doing this? And when you can actually address that why, then all the other factors, they are not that important in front of it.
Indeed, it becomes a proud moment for yourself that I'm standing here right now.
Yeah.
Moving further, the next question. Also, can you share some light upon what are some of the challenges that you are facing during the preparation for the civil service examination? Of course, your mental health is your priority, and with that, what were the challenges?
So say any person who is wanting to sit for any examination, the first problem that comes to his or her mind is, कहाँ से पढूं? कैसे पढूं? Should I study from home or should I go to a coaching institute, right? Should I go to Delhi because Delhi is touted as the hub of civil service coaching? So that is one of the biggest problems. So I can put it in the logistics side of the whole preparation. So yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges because again, everything comes back to FOMO, fear of missing out. Am I missing out on the best coaching institute? Am I missing out on the best coaching material? क्या उसके notes मेरे notes से ज़्यादा better है? So that was the biggest challenge. And definitely when I faced it during COVID when I was preparing from home, I was always having a feeling कि क्या मैंने गलती कर दी? क्या मुझे दिल्ली जाना चाहिए था? So that was one big question. But the best solution to it is technology again. By leveraging technology, everything is available on YouTube today. You get everything on like Telegram. There are peer groups who are sharing notes. So that really worked in my favor. So that is the number one problem that people face. And the second problem is plan B. People do not plan their attempts wisely. So when I say it, it is that there are certain people who would endlessly give attempts without doing anything in their lives. But what happens that, say, for a student who has a lot of financial backup, will not face any kind of problem. But students who are not financially, well off, they would definitely, after one or two attempts, they will feel terrible about their whole situation. And again, it just, you just end up in a very negative thought process. So plan B is very important. I mean to say that students can join any kind of work that, they are skilled at. So you can join teaching, you can join an LPO sector also, you can join into corporates, depending on the choices. So these are the two major problems even I faced during my preparation.
It's an enlightening knowledge which you shared right now, because we know this generation is running towards civil service examination, just running without planning. Thank you for sharing this. But moving further, can you share some views upon what a day in the life of a civil servant officer look like?
Okay, so well, currently I'm under training. So our day starts as early as 6 in the morning because all the OTs are supposed to report for the physical training. And so we have Zumba in the morning or we have yoga. So that takes place in the sports corridor that we have in the academy. After the PT session, we head to our breakfast and then we have our classes. So those are academic sessions that we have. Every academic session is like 1.5 hours each, and renowned faculties who are ex-bureaucrats or they're intellectuals in their own field, say sociology, law, history. They come and they teach us. They teach us on various perspectives of Odisha. And the academic sessions, they go till 5:30. Apart from the academic sessions, in the evening, Different sports facilities have also been provided to us. So there are a lot of OTs who are part of swimming club, they are part of table tennis, they're part of the gym and badminton. So badminton is a favorite pastime of all the OTs because we have an excellent badminton court in the academy, as well as cricket. And in the night time, a lot of OTs are also preparing for various other examinations, and they are also into various cultural activities. And we regularly have some jamming sessions also happening. So, yeah. And now we are looking forward to the Delhi attachment and district training that we will be going in the next 2 weeks.
That sounds so fun and such a good message they are conveying that with your career, you should balance your health plus
Yeah.
jamming session, the entertainment. Wow, that's such a great message, I swear.
Because a lot of our OTs are excellent poets and they recite poetry. A lot of them are good singers. So every now and then we have those jamming sessions, and it's fun. It's fun in the academy. But most importantly, it is just not going for the academic sessions. Almost all training institutions, they make sure that people who get into bureaucracy, they stay fit also, like, physically and mentally fit. And definitely, like after 1 year of the training, we really come out as bureaucrats. And I remember on the first day of our training, one of our directors, course director, she said that आप ऑफिसर बन के तो कभी आते नहीं हो, बट जब आप यहाँ से जाओगे आप ऑफिसर ही बन के जाओगे, and you will be ready to face any posting, any attachment that comes in your way. So that is in short how the life is right now, every day.
That sounds so fun. Now I'm fully motivated.
That definitely, I mean, like, you should give it a try.
Why not? Thanks to you. Moving further with the next question. Can you share some insights into your approach towards fostering inclusivity and addressing issues related to disability rights within the framework of public policy in Odisha?
So I'll just give you a brief introduction as to how I came across an opportunity to work in the field of disability. My own brother, he is a disabled child, and since birth he cannot walk. And I had always been very empathetic towards these issues because I have firsthand I have seen the challenges that these people face. Say when he was in the school, when he was enrolled in a school, he was not treated, equally with his student, like with his classmates. And teachers were also not very empathetic towards him. So that is how these issues really started to make sense to me. And I came across an opportunity to work with a foundation. It's called as the Ivara Foundation. And Ivara Foundation works across Pan India, and they work for people with disabilities. They have lawyers who fight cases for the disabled community. Say there was a case of one particular candidate whose candidature in the UPSC examination was under stake. So one of the lawyers from Ivara Foundation, they took up his case. And as a civil servant, I have not come across a situation where I have to address to a situation, but definitely, again, the government runs schemes such as the Madhu Babu pension scheme, and my brother is a beneficiary of the scheme because that scheme is for people with disabilities. So yes, public policies in the state of Odisha is definitely addressing the needs of the disabled community.
Yeah, government has so many schemes for the beneficiaries,
Yeah.
and I appreciate government for taking such steps. And I think that inspiration comes from our personal experience,
Yes.
right? And your brother is your inspiration.
But so my brother's name is Karan Sharma, and he's an excellent singer. And his favorite pastime and hobby is singing. So though he did not get the opportunity to study in a normal school, because we lack special schools, in small towns. But we made sure that he pursues a singing talent, and therefore now he's a great singer.
Wow, talent all around.
Yeah.
Okay, moving for the further question. Also, can you tell us about the feeling of yours when you got to know that you have cleared the civil service examination?
To be very honest, every day I I wake up every day and I still, everything feels like a dream to me, because the number of years that I put in into this, and the number of failures I had to meet, this whole journey, and me clearing the examination, and that day when the results came out is still a very surprising day for me. And I am a devotee of Shiva Bhagwan. I'm his devotee. And the results came on Monday. Nothing can be beautiful than that. And like when the results came out, मैंने last से अपने नाम खोजना चालू किया था. So मैंने देखा कि पीडीएफ के लास्ट 8-9 पेजेस में मेरे नाम नहीं थे. तो मेरे को लग गया था कि आई एम नॉट गेटिंग अ रैंक दिस ईयर as well. But then I saw that my name was in the 47th rank, which is in the beginning, like, first 2-3 pages of the PDF. And I was very ecstatic. I was literally shouting. And I just straight rushed to like the mandira in our house. I straight rushed to like the mandira, and I just bowed down in front of God, and I was crying. I was crying for like half an hour or so. And I just could not believe I'm very grateful for this day. I'm very grateful for the service, to make it into the service, because for somebody who has met a lot of failures. I mean, I'm not the only person who has seen failures in life. और भी लोग हैं जिनका struggle मुझसे भी बहुत ज्यादा है. उन्होंने भी बहुत failures देखे हैं. But I wanted to do this for my family. I wanted to make my parents proud. I wanted to make my teachers proud, because there's a lot of people dreamt with me, and that is the biggest thing. मतलब मेरा सपना और भी लोगों ने देखा था.
Well, that's why we
So I wanted
say
to do it for them. Yeah.
that's why we say that your support system should be so strong that you don't feel like giving up. And of course, your God was a guiding angel. So, last but not the least, what advice would you give to individuals aspiring to pursue a career in civil services, especially those with backgrounds in diverse fields like yours?
Let me tell you this thing. For a student who comes from law background, it gives you immense help in all the stages of the civil service examination. Most importantly, in the mains and in the interview, because us law students, we are so used to writing long answers, and we know how to address multifaceted questions. It definitely helps you in the mains answer writing. Apart from that, any knowledge of law that you have, say you have an experience of one particular field of law also, that is definitely going to help you in the interview, because then the interview panel starts exploring your knowledge in your field. And when you make it into the services, when you get your posting, then again that knowledge helps you. So for example, now that I'm in the finance service, we study a lot about, there are segments where we have to study on criminal law, we have to study on constitutional law, and our whole training revolves around the GST law, taxation law. And as law students, we are introduced to these subjects way right in our law school. So definitely that is an added advantage. So law students should particularly target civil service examinations, because law as an optional also is a very successful optional. Like yesterday only the UPSC results came out, and a lot of law students, around more than 10 to 15 students who have taken law as their optional, have qualified UPSC. So you can see that it is, every year the trend is just going in a positive side. So law as a diverse background like we always have an edge, and we should definitely look forward to join the civil services.
Truly, ma'am, this words was really act a guiding light for everyone. A very out of context question. That is, how was your experience in SNIL being a student with the faculties and everyone, your juniors?
My 5 years in SNIL, the only one thing that I can say is that it is only and only because of my teachers. I made it to the law school. I survived the 5 years of law school. It was only because of the excellent teachers I got. And starting from Jaidev Pati sir, who was at that time our dean, then Madhubrata ma'am. She taught me constitution, taught me contract law. And I think it's because of her teachings that I scored excellent in my papers. And Chinmay sir, he has taught us criminal law, he taught us patent, intellectual property. And Amrita ma'am, she's like a best friend, she's like a mentor, guide. And last but not the least, Hiranmay sir. And Hiranmay sir also taught us a lot of subjects back in the law school. And finally, Dr. Prabir sir, because Prabir sir has always been a father figure to me. He has always been a great mentor, great guide. And whatever I am today, it is all because of my teachers.
Everyone acts as your guiding angel in your journey. That's so, ma'am. It was a pleasure to talk with you, have you on board today. Thank you so much for your time and thank you so much for being with us today.
It is also a pleasure for me to be back at Frames. And it's an honor for me because when we were in our third year, fourth year of law school, this whole idea of coming up with our photography unit and have a bunch of kids who are great at shooting and who are great at capturing memories, and 2-3 girls who are great at taking interviews. So it's fun to be back, and I'm so glad that you guys are doing so great. And I saw your YouTube channel as well, and I hope that you always prosper like this, and you are actually carrying forward the legacy. And I'm so glad that it is, things are improving, things are changing for the good. And carry on, guys. I'm so great. It's so great to be back.
You had your faculties, you had your family as your guiding angel, your God, and our seniors are our guiding angel, whose legacy we are carrying on. Thank you so much for today, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank you so much, Rashi. Thank you.
So this is the end to yet another episode of podcast that we don't want to end. The knowledge I and our viewers will get from this episode will be immense. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out your time from your schedule and sharing insightful views upon your journey of becoming a civil servant officer and talking about various aspects of development in Odisha. I hope that this episode will become one of the guiding light for aspirants who want to become civil servants in future. Thank you once again, ma'am, for coming to our podcast and sharing your views and knowledge. That was it for today, and see you in all next episode.
Thank you, Rashi.